champ of the microphones tonight. With a mind so slick and a suit so clean, he's running this ring like a wrestling machine. From gold-plated deals to jaw-dropping schemes, he's the mastermind of your wildest dreams. Stand up, take note, bow down if you can. It's the Brilliant Show with the Brilliant One. He's the man.
Welcome into the Brilliant Show. We've got a special guest. We got Benjamin Wood. He's fixing to come up in just a second. But before we get to him, we're streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. So make sure you check us out on one of those three platforms. Also, ask questions. The comments are open, so make sure you do that. Check us out on Brainbuster Tees and check out the Brilliant Show. Get some swag. Get a t-shirt or a hat. That's at Brainbuster Tees, the Brilliant Show. And then upcoming shows. Sunday night, we got Brimstone coming on, and Monday, Vladimir Koloff. But without any further ado, let's welcome in Mr. Benjamin Wood. What's going on, Ben?
That's a hell of a little opening you got for yourself there, man.
Man, I tried to. I forgot to plug one thing. You can listen to us on all podcast platforms too, and this will be available in the morning. But man, welcome to the show. It's been a while since I've seen you. How you been?
Doing good, brother. Doing good. Appreciate the invite, man. Lots of things to discuss today, and I will answer every question you've got as truthfully as I possibly can.
Well, awesome. Noah Hosey already throwing the eyes out there. I do want to start with something that happened just a little over a month ago.
Yes, sir.
I talked about it on the other podcast, and I was talking about, the exceptional talent that you are, the exceptional talent Barry Wolf is, and you had a loser lead town match, and apparently you left town, my man. You left town.
Man, Barry Wolf's just one of those guys that, he's a veteran. He's a leader in the locker room. We did some business with the Revolution, and it was going good for a minute. And then, in this wrestling world of ours, there's a little thing called an ego that kind of floats around from here and there. Barry's ego was getting a little too high. His ego and my ego, those two things just can't coexist together in the same locker room. The only thing we could do was have a loser leaves town match because somebody got to go. Man, I fought tooth and nail, and unfortunately, due to a real bad 3 count by the referee, honestly, somehow, magically, Barry Wolf ended up sending me packing.
Wow. I mean, you're right, though. You're right. But you have to have an ego to survive in wrestling. That's all there is to it. Now, I know that, Barry, I know how Barry is. He's very cunning. You're very cunning yourself. That had to have been just one hell of a match. And I wish I could have been there to see it. I was not able to make it to that show that night. But I wish I'd have been there. So what you been doing since you left town, man? Where you headed at now?
Well, I'm back in the good old state of Kentucky. Got a lot of roots here. There's a lot of people who follow my career know. It's a good place. If people do not know, I am an avid nature freak, and I love being outdoors. And I had really missed the agriculture, the scenery, just all the amazing parks that are around this area through Ohio, Indiana, Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee. And I've just been enjoying myself to the fullest, getting me some nature, some peace of mind, and things are just clicking on all cylinders right now, brother.
Man, that is awesome. You talk about, the history with you, Kentucky. Like, you got started around OVW, like back what year did you start wrestling, and like how did you get into it at that point?
Well, no, honestly, my career actually started in New York. The funny story is I was working a overnight job. I have a background in psychology, working with developmentally disabled adults and children. I also worked on an inpatient psychiatric ward as an occupational therapist. So I was in a pretty good career, but in my heart, pro wrestling was strong from 8 years old. from the first time I saw Saturday Night's Main Event. I was hooked like nobody's business. And being the junkie I was, it was always there, spinning, spinning, spinning in my mind. Working out after those third shifts around 5 a.m., there was a tiny little woman that worked out in the mornings. And she happened to be the WBC women's welterweight champion at the time, one of the first female boxing champions. And she said, you should get into boxing. So I was like, sure, why not? And, started training, had a couple amateur fights. The funniest thing in the world, brother, is I did not like getting hit. And so, we were sparring one day in Yonkers, and there's a sign on the wall, and it says Pro Wrestling Training Sundays. Man, I went up to the front desk. I asked the person behind the desk, is there really pro wrestling training on Sundays? And they said, they sure are. Here's the person's contact number. I walked straight back to my trainer, and I said, thank you for everything. I showed up that next Sunday. And from there on in, every Sunday I went, trained. My first school was in a boxing ring, the boxing ring at the Yonkers gym. Want to talk about taking bumps that hurt?
Yeah,
No give, all feeling. And the training at the time wasn't probably the greatest schooling of training. They basically just let us go in there and practice what we watched on TV with a little bit of advice. But I picked things up pretty quickly because I've always been screwing around and fooling around with it. When we played football in high school, we'd throw the mats down and we'd have like pro wrestling matches with the football players and stuff. And we'd, do a full little 5-minute match and stuff like that all the time and have fun. It's just one of those things, honestly, and from taking some bumps yourself, it's either something you get or you don't get.
Exactly.
So you either pick it up or you don't pick it up. And I picked it up pretty quick. And after a year, I got my first independent match. And of all places, it was in Harlem, New York. And my first independent opponent ever was Special Delivery Jones.
Oh, wow.
And you want to talk about a deer in headlights. Man, I was nervous as shizzle. And it was just an honor to be in the ring with the man. The second night, because this was a 2-day event, I ended up working Tank, Sergeant Swole from the No Limit Soldiers. One of the biggest human beings I have ever stood next to in my entire life.
And you're not, little man yourself now. So.
No, I'm not. But this guy's chest was about the size of like a small car, man. He was a big, big dude and the nicest guy in the world. And, those were two really awesome opening experiences. I went a little while back into, working, the job and stuff. And I don't know, an opportunity popped up to move to New Jersey. My sisters were living in Toms River at the time. And I was like, I need to change the scenery. I really want to pursue this dream. I'm here. I got rid of the job. I moved out there and I happened to move at the time. I'd like to consider probably like the mecca of independent wrestling in New Jersey. And you had NWA Jersey running, you had Jersey All Pro running. My first mentor and real teacher, Donnie Bucci, he was running Phoenix Championship Wrestling at the time. And his twin brother, was Nova from ECW, better known as Simon Dean from WWE. Mm-hmm. And the School of Knowledge was absolutely like incredible. And I was doing things at a short time in the business that guys who have been wrestling their whole career have dreamed of. This was the time back in 2000, 2001, where all the ECW talent was available in the area. WCW talent was available in the area. We were bringing in name guys all the time. I had the honor to work with a very skilled man. His name was Tiger Khan, and he was a tremendous competitor, had a lot of opportunities in his career. We formed a tag team with our manager at the time, Mr. Prince Nana, and my other tag team partner, Sanjay Dutt, and we were called the United Nations. You've seen similar versions of that group on television, and we were the first ones to kind of do it, and it was pretty cool. But Phoenix Championship Wrestling was running shows like left and right. We were drawing between 1,000 and 700 people. Donnie knew what he was doing. He taught me everything he could about promoting. And we had shows with Eddie Guerrero when he was released for the first time. You know, guys like that, Jerry Lynn, AJ Styles, like they were coming in on a regular show basis. And it was just a tremendous opportunity to have those people around and learn under those trees. Um, Within, I think it was 2001, maybe early 2002, got my first big tryout with TNA down in Tennessee. It was me, Tank Toland, and a couple other guys went down. Tiger Khan, my partner, and we we fucking stunk the house out. And I remember Bill Behrens, man, saying like, when you go out to the ring, turn to the camera this way. What do you think I did? I turned the opposite direction.
That's
So
what I feel.
I get back in the back and like right in front of like Jerry Jarrett and Percy Pringle and all those guys. I'm getting my head ripped off, and I'm like, I'm already feeling crappy about the match. But what a cool experience it was to have that opportunity, you know.
Was
And
that
just,
in the asylum? Was that like in the
that
fairgrounds?
was in the original fairgrounds. Yes, it was.
Okay.
And it was not the octagon ring; it was the regular four-sided ring at the time. So, but yeah, 6 minutes. Shit. That meant from the time you walk out to the time the match is over. By the time everybody got done with their entrances, because nobody knew what the f they were doing, we had about 3 minutes to do a 6 minute match, and they were trying to get the 6 minutes in. So, you know, but it was cool, man. You know, just to see like, you know, some of the guys that you really grew up admiring, like Kurt Hennig was telling us stories and talking with us and stuff, and just like how big the dude was in person as compared to like what you saw on television was like mind blowing to me. Like a lot of the guys, you'll see them and meet them, and you're like, wait, huh? Like, you know, some are bigger, some are smaller, you know, some you're like, really? And it's like, it was just a really cool deal. About a few months after that, they started a show on MTV. I think everybody knows what that was. It was called Tough Enough. I made a video and I got picked. And I went in for a tryout at the old WWE restaurant. And it was a pretty crazy day, man. I decided to try to go for it all, and I wore my gimmick when I went out there. Taz yelled at me for a good minute and a half. Actually told me I looked like I'd been locked up before. At the time, I had dreadlocks, so it was a completely different look. And you know, I went through that practice, and things were looking pretty good, man. I thought like, you know, there was a pretty damn good shot that something could happen for me. I didn't do as well on the talking points, I realized later on. I think I was trying to portray myself as being like a get along with type of guy when they were probably looking for a little bit more drama, which would have been my forte if you know me. And it was, you know, it didn't work out that way, but it was a humbling, eye-opening experience. Again, like another major opportunity. I'm like 2 years in the wrestling business, you know? And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Nova was signed down to OVW here in Kentucky, and he was getting his WWE opportunity. And OVW had a tryout, and it was a WWE OVW tryout. It was a week long. There were probably about, if I remember correctly, 3,500 applications, and they chose 75 guys to come down. One of those 75 guys was me. And it was a crazy week, man. At this point in my career, I'm greener than grass. And I'm already thinking like I'm doing better than I already am. And so things weren't clicking. And I was like, you know, saw a lot of different things, a lot of things happened there. And, you know, a lot of good competition too. The guys that were in that actual class with me were Wavell Star, Shad Gaspar, known as Beast, rest in peace, my friend. Jillian Hall, Tank Toland, Mike Mondo. You know, a good cast of indie guys that were from all over the world. And out of those 75 guys, they chose about roughly 10 to come back down. So it's been like a month, whatever. And I had scheduled myself a tour for Europe. Um, Tiger Khan got me hooked up with it. I was ready to go. Wasn't any guarantees or anything, and I was kind of nervous about it because you're going to go over there with like not sure what you're going to get paid, where you're going to stay, things like that. And I get a phone call, and there's this squeaky little voice on there, and it says, "Hey, baby boy, uh, we want you to come down to OVW." And I'm like, "Holy shit, this is Jim Cornette!" And like, he's like, they're really calling me, and sure enough, they invited me down, and man, it's the opportunity of a lifetime. 2.5 years in the wrestling business, and I'm going to, at the time, like the place everybody in the business wants to be. And I'll be honest, man, there were people that looked at me and said, "How the F is he going?" And I probably at the time didn't deserve it, to be honest. But one thing I've heard probably a million times in my career is you got a great look, kid, and you're big. And that will get you in more doors sometimes, my friend, than talent will ever get you in this business or any business, acting, film, anything. Even your regular day job, the better looking you are, the more chances you have of being a successful CEO. And that's just the fact of the matter. So, it was an honor to get picked to go do that, especially with some of the guys that were still back in the area working, far more talented guys than I was. But imagine being a kid who kind of grew up in a different environment, not, a lot of money and a lot of friends, a lot of things going on. And all of a sudden you're like thrust into like the NBA, and they hand you like a contract and here's your life, kid. Overwhelming is hell, man. The level of competition there at the time was absolutely insane. There were 40 guys they had two classes. They had the beginners class and they had the advanced class. The advanced class was all the talent contract guys and a bunch of us still trying to get a contract. And it was 40 of us in practice, 4 days a week. And you're talking about like Ginger Akin O'Hare. You're talking about like, Mike Mondo, Shad Gaskar, all starting out from fresh, Jillian Hall, Beth Phoenix. Like my first practice, I'm literally taking suplexes from Randy Orton, who was rehabbing his shoulder for a while down there. Batista, like just clotheslining the hell out of you. I was working constantly with Big Matt Morgan, the Blueprint, because again, I'm 6'4". I fit the mold of the guys that they're working with. Mark Henry, like wrestled them, tagged with them. You want to talk about one of the nicest guys in this business? That's a big brute force is Mark Henry for sure. But like these are guys you watched on television. These are guys you know by name. These are guys like you're seeing. They're always bringing in, guys that work with us. The agents are always coming down. Jim Ross and Arn Anderson and Terry Taylor and Dr. Tom, and it's one of the most cutthroat environments you could ever be in. I've never been in a place where a locker room where every single person in that locker room wants to make it as bad as you do. And that's a lot of obstacles to overcome. And I was grateful, but I lasted about 2 years until about 2005. And some regimes changed, and I had my son, and just things were different at the time, and I kind of wasn't up to par with like what I could really be doing. So I took some time off, and I did the independent scene about a year later for a while, and eventually around 2006 I ended up going back to OVW. They weren't developmental anymore, but it was kind of a chance to redeem myself and prove to Danny Davis and Jim and Rip Rogers that I belonged there to begin with, and I did pretty good with that run. And speaking of Rip Rogers, man, you want to talk about a mentor and a trainer probably hands down the best trainer there is in professional wrestling. The time and effort he puts in the individuals, doesn't matter whether you got heat, doesn't matter who likes you, whatever. If you listen and you're willing to learn, he's going to give you the time and the direction. And like the learning tree at OVW is incredible. You know, the guys themselves that you're working with, you're learning from. Jim Cornette was a mastermind of teaching us psychology. He would put on matches and have us watch like the Midnight Express versus the Rock and Roll Express and like break down every little bit of psychology. They would send us out newsletters every week that would like explain different things and, you know, tell us what matches and stuff to watch and things like that. And like that was really cool. So, you know, if you couldn't learn from that system, then you weren't meant to be in this business. And so that's kind of how I got to Kentucky. I built that history here, and I wrestled for a lot of promotions down here. You've been in the Mississippi territory, and you know how those fans are.
Oh yeah, very
Um,
much.
the fans here are very much that same passionate way. To say they believe is one thing, but the support and the enthusiasm they have for the shows really helps you create a better understanding of, you know, how to get over in front of an audience. Because if they're sitting there doing nothing, then nothing you're doing is working. If they're reacting one way or the other, you at least got a chance to you know, get something out of them. So that kind of started that journey for me, man. And through that, I have been a lot of places up and down the coast.
Man, you've been all over. Speaking of, like you talked about Rip Rogers. I've talked to Rip Rogers, man, great guy, but he is not putting up with bullshit. You know, he knows when you're trying to bullshit him right off the bat. Then you talked about Jim Cornette, one of the greatest minds in wrestling. Danny Davis was there. Now that you're back in Kentucky, have you been in contact with the new ownership of OVW, or been
I have
around
a
them?
pretty, I have a pretty decent relationship with Al Snow. One of the guys that I was there with too. A few of them are in the office. I haven't, honestly, since I've been in Kentucky, I have not reached out to anybody in the wrestling business. Um, I've kind of taken a little hiatus from things, and you know, I'm not really sure where I'm at. One thing you can never say in pro wrestling is that I'm done and I'm never
Yeah,
gonna pop up somewhere again. But
because it'll happen next week.
I'm really at peace with myself right now, man. And I'm venturing on some new things in my life and starting a business and doing some other stuff and getting back into the acting world a little bit. And, you know, as much as I love wrestling, it's been very good to me. And it's also caused me a lot of pain. And so right now, I feel like I'm not pushing. I'm watching what's going on around. I know I could make some calls or send some emails and have some opportunities, but right now I'm not really itching for it, you know? And
I know that peace of mind very well when you have to leave the wrestling business. You have to get away from it. You have to rejuvenate yourself. Last time I was gone for 9 months, I had to get out because my mom got sick. And when I came back, when I left, I didn't mention wrestling in my house for 9 months because I just wanted to clear my head. I needed to get that out. I needed to. I just need to be clear minded. And now I didn't say I wasn't ever coming back, but then 9 months later, you know, I did make a return, but it wasn't like I was telling everybody I'm coming back soon. It happened when it was supposed to happen, and that's why I kind of made my return. With you, you like you said, you had a good look, uh, big guy. I mean, just all around, you look like a star. My thing was this is too. You also met and had an interaction, if I remember correctly, with Vince McMahon at one point.
I sure did. So, I mean, a lot of guys have done extra work and things like that up at WWE. My road to that was a lot different. Even though I had been in OVW, even though I, you know, was working with the WWE talents and you know, Laurinaitis and guys are coming down, JR all the time, evaluating guys. you know, they were more focused on the guys that they had signed that had contracts. Plus, they were bringing guys in left and right. Nick Nemeth had come in. He was a star right off the bat. Bobby Lashley, just unbelievable athlete, you know. They were pulling these guys out of school, off the street. They were bringing in models. They were bringing Playboy girls. They were bringing people in from all walks of life. And we would do big shows down here that at Kentucky Kingdom, like once every 2 months on a Friday. And they'd have like John Cena come down, Booker T, Kane, you know, guys of the Undertaker, guys like that. So, you know, you're around guys like that. And you know, and it's different when you're working with fellas. You know, Bradshaw and Ron Simmons were at OVW when I was there. They actually ribbed me one day. I didn't have a ride back from one of the shows. They were one of the last few to leave. They told me I couldn't ride in the cab because they didn't have no room. Of course, there's only one suitcase sitting in the back of the car. But they made me ride in the back of the dump truck, like the big truck they had. And it's freezing out. It's probably about 40 degrees. And along comes the ring truck, and about 3 or 4 canisters of water come flying into the back of the pickup truck. So now it's 40 degrees and I'm soaking wet. And those were just kind of the things you had to eat and take and smile about. You were always being tested like that. And, you know, what happened?
Good stories, though. Made for good stories.
Oh, for sure, for sure. And Ron Simmons was like the nicest guy in the world. He was funny as hell. But through my career, when I went back to OVW in 2006, 7, you know, things were clicking. I was in a tag team. We were really hot. We had tag team titles across from Jackson, Mississippi to, you know, Louisville and Ohio. You know, at a certain point, I was wrestling 4 days a week, you know, just bumping and bruising. And it was friggin' amazing. But, you know, you get to that point where, like, you're a certain age and you're like, man, you know, things are cool, but things aren't where I want them to be. And it's like, how much longer can I keep pursuing this at this level if I'm not getting here? And so Harley Race used to have a camp every year out in Eldon, Missouri. And there ain't nothing to do in Eldon, Missouri, let me tell you, but pro wrestling and strip clubs.
Oh, they have a strip club. That's one good thing.
Yeah. So
they have their teeth at the strip club, though. I just need to know that.
It was pretty funny because, like, me and Tommy Mercer were hanging out back then, and he was at the tryout, and, you know, big, good-looking, fucking blonde-haired kid, and Vader was one of the guests at the school. He was at the strip club, and me and Tommy were talking to some of the girls, and Vader really wasn't having a good time. And I remember when he saw us the first time at the school, he gave us like the look of death. Like, you know, because we were talking to some of the girls, but that's a whole different story. Anyhow, like, Harley had this camp, and you know, the guys from Noah were there. Ricky Steamboat was one of the guests, and he was an agent at the time for WWE. And there was a lot of veterans there. Bob Evans was there, Brutal Bob, one of the greatest guys in this industry. One of the, I forget his name, but it was the other half of the Heartbreakers. And you know, like I said, Tommy and a couple other guys and stuff. And it was a crazy experience, man, you know. Beat the shit out of us. Like, that Japanese workout, they only put us through a quarter of what their dojo was like. And there were points where, like, they wouldn't let you stop. So if it was like, you're going to do 50 push-ups, like, you did the 50 push-ups, and there were a couple guys obviously that were out of shape, and they'd have some of us wrestlers go around them, one on each arm, one on each leg, and make sure that dude gets through to the 50. Like, it was pretty brutal. They beat the crap out of us. And there was one point where, like, my sciatic nerve, man, holy shit.
Oh,
like, it was
nerve, that's the worst
I could barely walk. And Harley's like, come here, kid. He puts me on a table, he rubs his hands, and he just goes right in and does some kind of crunch maneuvers, you know, and, like, all of a sudden, like, I feel this pop, and, like, my hip feels great. And so I was able to go back and finish up. So the last day of the training, we all had matches in front of everybody. Steamboat's sitting there, Vader's sitting there, you know, Harley, the other trainers and stuff. And I was actually the first match of the day. My picture was on top of the pile of all the guys that were there. And I was trying to figure out the system, whether they're trying to get the shit out first or the guys that they were really looking at. So I've got this 5-minute match with this kid, much smaller than me. Dude's sweating bullets. Right before we're supposed to go there, he says, dude, and he's like tearing up. And I'm like, what's wrong, man? He's like, I forgot everything we went over. And I'm like, oh, okay. So here we go. Bell rings on the fly, you know, doing the best I can. I went big man on him, you know, because that's all I could think of is like, I'm just going to power him around, throw some big boots, some big stuff, and just slip him over with something clean, you know, like out of nowhere. And we had the match, and, you know, a bunch of other matches happened. It was lunchtime. I seen Ricky Steamboat over on the lunch line. So I'm all about opportunity, man. That's one thing about me. A lot of guys go places, they talk about stuff, they kind of shy off or whatever. I ain't a wallflower when it comes to that. And so I went right up to Ricky and I was like, hey, man, thanks for being here, blah, 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 blah. Look, SmackDown's going to be in Lexington, Kentucky next week. It happened to be on my birthday, October 13th. And I said, you know, I would love an opportunity to go there as an extra and just show what I can do, you know. I was probably in the best shape of my life at that point. I mean, 240 on lots of stuff, nice dreads, you know, just, you know, and it was, things were clicking for me. I was starting to understand the business a little bit better, you know, and I asked him, you know, if he could get me on there, and politely he gave me the, you know, us, you know, whatever kid, like, you know, I'm not really in the office much, blah, 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 you know, this and that, but, you know, I'll see what I can do. And I said, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time. And, you know, we wrapped up that day, and they had a show that weekend. We could have all stayed and participated and whatever, but like, I was just, you know, I wasn't in my mind at the point. I was kind of defeated. And so, like, man, I drove home from Eldon, Missouri back to Kentucky crying my eyes out for half the trip. You know, basically just like, I think I'm done. You know, I'm like 30, I think 36 years old, 35, 36. And like, you know, I didn't get out of it what I really wanted. You know, I wanted to hear from Japan, like, hey, you know, we'll love to have you over. But I didn't get that. You know, they were looking for 20-year-olds to start out at the dojo so they can train them the way they want them trained. And I'm certainly not a 20-year-old. Nor did I want to do the dojo. But
I like that, training them in their system. And yeah, the dojo, that's a whole nother level right there, man.
No joke, dude. Just the like neck exercises these guys do is just incredible, dude. Like you'd snap your neck doing the exercise.
Yeah. I've seen some of the stuff that they do, and it's just like absolutely insane. Like, I mean, they push the body to another level. Like, it's just unreal.
It's a whole nother level of respect too for just like the whole culture and everything they do. But like if you've been around and you've had any chance to like participate in any bit of what they do, man, it is mind blowing. And the respect like I have for the guys that can do it, like top notch, dude. So I'm back in Kentucky. 3 or 4 days go by. I'm eating at like Dave's barbecue or whatever, and I get a phone call. And it's like from a 213 number, Connecticut, whatever. I went to my voicemail. I didn't answer it. And like my friend that I was eating was like, no, check your voicemail. And I was like, whatever. So I check it and it says, hi, this is Kristen from WWE's offices. Well, give me a call back, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh man, the fucking boys are ribbing me. Like, that's fucked up. And she's like, no, call the fucking number back. And I'm like, whatever. I call the number back. Well, sure enough, it's Kristen at WWE, Talent Relations. And she said, we'd like to book you for the 13th in Lexington. And I was like, no shit. And she's like, make sure you got your license, you know, all the other stuff that you needed. Here's what you bring, blah, blah, blah. And it was at that moment that I realized Ricky Steamboat went back to the fucking office. Excuse my language. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say
No, you're, hey, Trust me, if you watched last night's episode, it was worse than Howard Stern. So no, you're okay. It's unlimited here tonight. I mean, it's
Awesome,
unlimited.
awesome. I'm from New York, bro, and it's like my second language. So yeah, basically like Ricky Steamboat went back to the office and he said, book this kid. Because that's the only way they would have gotten my info. And
Right.
so like my heart was like, you know, I love Ricky Steamboat, man. And it was cool. And so I'm nervous, I'm anxious, like getting myself prepared, I'm working out, you know, like the tryout day comes, I arrive early, whatever. You always show up in a suit, you know, look presentable. They always tell you to bring like just a black shirt, black pants in case they're gonna have you do security. Most times you get a chance to work out in the ring before the show, sometimes you don't. That particular day we got an opportunity to work in the ring, a bunch of us. So unfortunately during the day, usually they've got guys that will run you through the practices and stuff. They're kind of giving you like mini tryouts while you're down there. We didn't really have anybody. A lot of the wrestlers were down at ringside watching, hanging out. You know, Mike Knox, I think Kane was down there. Lawler was talking to someone for a minute by ringside. And Jamie Noble wasn't there that day or was somewhere else, so he didn't run the practice. But we all worked out, and they videotape when you're working out before the show, believe it or not. So they've got eyes on you when you're there. And when I got tagged in, because we were doing, you know, how you're, you know, guys tag in and out on practices and stuff like that, basically just chaining around. I got in there with one of the girls. And so I was like, shit, I'm just going to make this girl look like $1 million. You know, I'm going to bump and feed for her, you know, and that's what I did. And they ended up picking her to work with this girl that they had that day. And it felt good, but I didn't really feel I accomplished anything. While I was down there, though, at ringside, I feel a tug on the back of my boot. And I look around, and there's Ricky Steamboat. And he's like, oh, I see you made it, kid. And I'm like, holy shit, dude. And I, you know, like I'm tearing up at that moment. Like, thank you so much, sir. Like, you know, he's like, did you work out with Jamie? And he's like, he wasn't here today. He's like, oh, you're going to have to work out with Jamie if we can do anything with you. And he's like, did you available for any other dates? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, you know, John Laurinaitis. And I'm like, yeah, he's been down to OVW a few times. He walks me over to the office. John's on the phone, gives me that 2-second blow off, whatever. And I started talking to him when he had time, which is really rare because, like, for one, like when you're an extra, you usually aren't having that much contact with these guys and stuff, you know. And fortunately for me, I knew some of the guys on the roster, like Molina and you know, Johnny Lightning and a couple other people, Beth Phoenix. You know, they all came up in the hallway and gave me a hug and stuff like that. And so people noticed those things, you know. And Laurinaitis is like, well, we're going to have to get you booked for some other dates. You're going to need to work with Jamie to evaluate you. And he brings me to Mark Carano. And so now I'm talking to Mark Carano. And a lot of the guys we were there with, because there's usually about 5 or 6 of us that were from OVW or wherever that were there as extras, you know, everybody's a wallflower, man. You know, they're all cowering in the corner in their own little clique, trying to be over with some of the other guys. The one kid that noticed what I was doing was Brad Maddox, former general manager. And so he kind of made his way over to me when I was talking to Mark Carano. So I turned to Mark, being the guy that I am, and said, hey, Mark, can we use this dude too on the shows? Can me and him travel together to the dates you're booking me for? And he's like, yeah, sure, bring him along. So I got Brad booked. We know what Brad went on to do.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm in the hallway, you know, just chilling. And I see Vince down the hall going over stuff with paperwork and things like that. And I don't know what the fuck I'm thinking. But he starts walking down the hallway. And as soon as he gets to about a foot from me, I step in front of him and cut him off. And you could like see the eyes in like the area just, what the fuck is he doing? And I'm like, Mr. McMahon, my name is Benjamin Wood. I just wanted to thank you for having me here today. And it would be an honor to have an opportunity to work with you someday. and he grabs my hand. I'm looking up at Vince. That's how big Vince is. I am looking up at Vince McMahon, and he's got my hand like a clutch. He's like, Benjamin. It's like, you got a good look, kid. And he's still holding my hand, and I'm almost pulling off because I think he's pulling off. He's like, we'll be seeing you around here, kid. And then, let's go, and gives me a little wink and walks off. And I'm just like, like, what did I do? Everybody else is like, what the, all of a sudden, everybody's talking to me from that's in a little small group now. What'd you do, man? How'd you talk to Vin? You were in the office with Mark Carrera. What's going on? It's like, that's what you're here for, man. Like, what are y'all, what are you guys doing? Like, hanging out and catering? Like, that's not what I came here for. You got to shoot your shot. In this business, if an opportunity presents itself, man, if that door opens just a crack, you got to push that door open and step through with every bit of confidence in the world, because if you don't, you never know if you're going to get that opportunity again. And imagine how many guys miss out on that.
Well, let me ask you this one important question about that meeting. Now, he didn't shit on you or anything, did he?
No, he certainly did not.
It was a joke.
He almost made me shit my pants, because say what you want about Vince McMahon, none of us are here without him.
Nope, and that's what I was going to say. He is our childhood.
But meeting that person and being in his presence is like you're in the presence of God. Like, to a Christian, to someone meeting Jesus or whatever it could be, to a pro wrestler, that is the same thing.
Yeah. And,
it was, I'll always have that, and I have no shame in that. Regardless, there's people that do bad things. But when it comes to pro wrestling, man, again, none of us would be here without him. So at the time, it was one of the greatest moments of my life.
Oh, I bet it was. I mean, I would still love to meet McMahon at some point. Don't forget to like this video. Hit the video. And don't forget, if you got a question for Mr. Ben Wood, hey, the floor is open. But Ben, I want to say this. With all of your career, you got to meet McMahon. You got to work around Rip Rogers, Jim Cornette, talk to Ricky Steamboat. Did you ever meet Richie, his son? Because I know he had a
His son was actually at the tryout camp. His son worked for Harley Race at World League Wrestling up there in Eldon, Missouri. Wow. Kurt Hennig's daughter was there, and my God, she looks just like a father, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not.
That's what I was going to say.
Super talented girl, super sweetheart, but never got that opportunity. But yeah, Richie was at the end of his career at the time, but what a super talent. I think he had just come back from Japan or Puerto Rico or something, but he was one of the guys at that time that everybody thought was the next big signing.
And he was until when he went to NXT, when NXT was in its infancy, he got hurt like 2 or 3 shows in, and it just wasn't the same after that. Even when he came back a little bit, it just I think that he lost something there. I know he'd already been in his career for a minute, but it just felt like you wanted to give him the world, and it just didn't happen.
Every bump counts, man.
Yeah, it does.
Right at that time where I was scheduled to go with Brad to the next shows, and here's a messed up part. The show in Maryland we were going to do, which would have been the first booking, the next one was in Virginia, was the night that Bret Hart came back to the WWE.
Wow.
And I was still in touch with Danny and OVW and stuff. They were doing a TV title tournament. I'm a former OVW television champion. And they had me come in and be a part of the tournament. And of course, I would always do stuff for them because, I'm wrestling Paradise and regular shit, dude. Shit you do all the time. We practiced, a couple things. He's going to do a dive off the top rope to the outside. I'm going to catch him, run him into the pole. He slips off, pushes me into the pole. Practice it 3 or 4 times. It's like catching like a butterfly. He's like 198 soaking wet. I'm 230 something. Jacked to the gill at the point. and we're start the match. Things are going good. Here comes the spot. He goes up, he jumps. I go to the ground with him. Felt something in my knee. Felt like nothing else I felt before. And man, I have done everything. I have tore my ear in half. I have split my nostril in half. I have torn my Achilles tendon. I have separated my AC joint. I actually tore a lat muscle. And man, something was wrong. And I don't know if you've ever had a serious injury or something where you try to get up and you can't. And my leg's doing this underneath me.
Ooh.
No feeling from the kneecap down. It's like carrying a cinder block. And I was like, holy shit. And I had to get counted out. We're only 2 minutes into this match. And I want to talk about excruciating pain, man. And I get to the hospital and they're cutting my gear off me and stuff. And they're looking at my knee and the doctors are giving me looks and whatever and taking x-rays and stuff like that. And the doctor's basically like, man, you're never going to wrestle again. I shredded my patella tendon, dislocated my kneecap, patella itself, and had 2 major surgeries, man. And they never fixed it right. And it changed a lot of my mobility and ability to do things. But as I said, never say never in life, because mind over matter is also a very powerful tool in this business. And although I couldn't perform at that level anymore, eventually I came to learn that I could still perform. But like you said, when you had to deal with the stuff with your mom, I couldn't watch wrestling on television after I blew my knee out. Like, I couldn't hear the word wrestling. Like, knowing the opportunity that was in front of me and knowing that I had to give that up, like literally having to call the office and be like, hey, Mark, like, I'm not going to be able to do those 2 dates, you know, knowing that dad went on and got fucking signed to a contract, you know, like those things ate my soul for a while. And I stayed away from it for a long time, man. And I moved back.
Melissa says, hey, says she misses you. Melissa
I
Thrasher
miss you
says she.
too, Melissa. Man, you've been there. The SWA fans, some of the greatest fans in professional wrestling, dude. Just really amazing. There's a in all performance entertainment, you know, you want to come out to an audience. You go to a concert and there's barely anybody at the concert. The music's not as good. The vibe is not as good. The place is packed. People are dancing. The music doesn't even have to be that great. It's the vibe and the atmosphere, and you're having a wonderful time. You know, pro wrestling, dude. You go out there and there's 25 or less than 100 people. It's a different vibe to go out there and perform. You go out in front of a crowd like SWA draws and how they've been drawing over the last couple of years, and every show you are just hyped up and can't wait to be out there. And it changes the way the rest of the locker room looks at things. Everybody's stepping their game up. The product's getting better. And to talk about one of the best locker rooms I've ever been in my life is the SWA locker room. I owe them so much for letting me kind of fizzle my career down the way I wanted to and go out the way I wanted to, in front of some of the most amazing fans and working with some of the most amazing talents that you can work with. You know, my heart and soul will always be with Big Haas and his family and all those guys. And,
well, speaking of SWA management, Monty Warbucks, always a thorn to SWA management, but you always gave your best, and I always respected you. So that's
we didn't always see eye to eye, Monty, but you know, you have to respect the man who's been around as long as he has. Him and Calvin do an amazing job booking the shows and taking care of the boys. And like I said, you see what they're doing, SWA. They're drawing 700, 800 people, putting on just masterpiece classics with new talent and bringing guys in and giving the young kids an opportunity, man. And it's a great mix of old school and new school that's functioning very well together. One thing you'll find these days is there's a lot of veterans like myself still around the business. Some of them are getting opportunities now at this age that they never had when they were in their prime. It's kind of crazy if you think about it. But there's also a lot of them that are hanging around and kind of still have that old school mentality. And although the formula in pro wrestling will always remain the same, you have to adapt with the times.
You have to evolve. Yes.
And if you don't evolve, then you can't prosper.
Exactly.
And the kids today, some of them, yes, are doing all this crazy stuff, and they don't maybe necessarily understand that it's the audience that matters, because the audience doesn't remember the 3 reverses, the 4 Canadian destroyers, and the backflip that you did. They
But they would
remember
remember
my
Benjamin Wood.
4-1, or my hero got his ass beat, or that guy was an asshole, or that guy did this, or I want that guy to lose. That's what they connect with. They connect with the emotion that you give them if you're working with them. And a lot of guys still aren't getting that, and hopefully they do understand it, because that's the difference. The audience makes you what you are. Again,
Exactly.
you can be the most talented guy in the world. If the crowd's not cheering for you or they're not booing you, you ain't shit.
Nope. Well, it's like I say all the time, and we got to hear from your buddy Nick Wonder here in just a second. But it's like I say all the time. Why are you trying so hard to pop the boys in the back when the people that paid the tickets are out there? Why don't you pop them? That's always been my philosophy. Nick says we're stuck. We stuck it to them, didn't we? What's he talking about here, Ben?
I don't know, man. That's kind of makes me wonder. But wonder, huh, good pun there, right? You know what? Nick's a hell of a guy. One of
Oh
the
yeah,
more
yeah.
talented guys in the locker room. But we had a match once, and I can say that Nick Wonder did not pin my shoulders to the mat. So whatever his philosophy on things may be, you never beat me, Nick.
Oh, we got a question here.
Uh-oh.
And after we get done with this, I've got a personal question to ask you. It's not too odd when you consider how much the landscape of professional wrestling has evolved with social media largely, but also shorts, podcasts, kayfabe being blurred, and biggest of all, competition. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. Enjoy working with Ben and SWA. Solid dude. That's Reggie, baby. Reggie Matthews, great guy.
Great guy, Reggie, man. Really a pleasure to be around and a pleasure to work with. And man, the dude's doing great things in his career. Can't be more proud of a guy going out there and getting his, especially when you're older and you're still prospering in the real world and building your resume, man. Much kudos to Big Reggie.
Yeah, Reggie's great. I'm gonna go ahead and say this, and we gotta get Reggie. Reggie, you need to hit me up. We need to get you on here too, buddy. All right. So we've had some fun so far. Have you not?
I'm always having a good time, man.
Me too. So I want to dig into something.
Let's dig.
All right. So speaking of Reggie, he has that big show every year at Southwest.
Yes, sir.
And one year, me and you was on that show. It was almost 800 people, if not 800 people. I don't
I think
remember.
that was the first Southwest show we did.
Yeah, and it was packed to the gills, man, and that was a fun crowd to go out to. Doc Gracie super kicked me off the apron. I heard the crowd pop, and usually when I'm out there around the ring or in the ring, I can never really hear the crowd, no matter how loud they are. It's just you're in the zone. So you just you don't know what you hear. I may be different, but
Well, I can assure you they weren't cheering for Doc Gracie.
but anyway, a little something happened after that, and I just want to know, man. I heard a wrestling manager or a mark manager that was in the back went talking smack about a couple of us in the locker room to you, saying that we were shitting on you. I mean, and I've always been straightforward. I think me and you talked about this a little bit, but because I thought we'd had a little bit of heat or whatever, but I would never disrespect you. I've always respected anything you've done. And I want to know. I mean, do me and you have heat still? Are we
No,
good?
we don't have heat, man. Not everybody gets along in pro wrestling. And for whatever reasons, my experience through Louisiana and Mississippi wasn't as fulfilling at times as I would have liked it to have been. Now, look, I don't shy away from controversy. And one thing that anybody that knows me will tell you is that if Ben Wood says something about you, Ben Wood will say it to your face.
Same here.
And
Yeah.
I did get info that there were things being said, and I did have a thought and a feeling about it at first. And I'll be honest, you have worked with several promotions. I don't know if you were booking at a point, but I know you were involved in helping run a promotion.
I
And
was
I
the owner.
I,
I
I
talked to you.
I never did work for you when you ran that promotion,
No,
and that kind of left a little bit of a bitter taste in my mouth, to be honest. But it doesn't give me a right or a reason to assume that you said something. When that information was brought to me, at the moment, thinking about things, it did register as okay. That's pretty fucked up if that did happen. But I talked to the other people involved in the situation, and you and I had a brief talk about it. And whether it did happen or didn't happen, man, you just can't hold on to shit in this world.
no, well,
Peace of mind is where it's at, and for me, like, and I'll get into this after that. We're done with this, but like,
yeah.
I have walked away from running a promotion that I put my fucking heart and soul into helping reignite after the flames went out, and you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
And
Exactly.
I needed to walk away from that so that I could be at peace because the toxicity was killing me to a point where I was just like, I don't care about any of it anymore. I've got to go. Um, so there is some toxicity in wrestling, and boys do talk about the boys, and people do have problems with people. And I ain't perfect. I have had heat with 225. I've had heat with Mustang Mike. I've had heat with other promotions that didn't use me or book me. And it does suck. And it's like, maybe people don't like me. Maybe I've had an attitude. Maybe I have an ego. But damn sure, if you had me on your show, I'm going to entertain your fucking fans. And I don't know if that to some people was a threat, because if you're just going out there and doing half-ass work and you've got a guy that's going to go out there and put in his all, a lot of people think they have a spot somewhere, an imaginary spot that really doesn't exist. And so, but they'll hold on to it with everything they can. So, yeah, there was a point, man, where I kind of felt like, why is this dude not fucking like me? I'll be
Ben,
honest.
I'll say this, man. I'll go ahead and give my side of it here. I've always respected you. I've always enjoyed being around you. I always thought you were entertaining. As a matter of fact, I told you when I wanted to book you. I was telling you I came. I think it was. I can't remember if it was Daphne. I'd come to you. I wanted to
Yeah, it was
get you.
that show for Slam Wrestling. Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to get you in. I love the look. I mean, y'all, you gave me that old school '80s vibe. Now I'd already had some booked for some months, and then when I did have an opening, I looked and I saw that y'all were already booked at SWA. I was trying to still work it in, and by the time that I got to where I wanted to work it in, is when I got that call with my mom, and she got sick. I did want to bring you in. And at the time, I was the owner of the company. And right when I got the news, like every time that I went to look at the books, because I was trying to find a team that could match up with the Pride, because that was the tag team champions. That was what we were trying to go to. And me and the booker was very keen on bringing you in. So I don't want you to think that we wasn't trying to do everything we was, and then but we booked so many months in advance, and then I was hoping that we'd have a cancellation, we could bring y'all in, and then when we did have one, which was because I also tried to bring the Daybreakers in, but every time I went to get the Daybreakers, like, dude, here it is, SWA's running. And I started to learn that because when I was bringing you in, was the Ocean Springs show, which was our big show. And then that was when the SWA was running at the same time. I didn't want no heat between me and you because I think you should know this. I would say anything to your face too. I'm not going to say anything behind nobody's back that I wouldn't say to their face. I call people out all the time, and you'll agree with this, I think, as well. Pro wrestling is one of the biggest places where everybody wants to be a badass, but everybody's a pussy. You know, they talk such a big game and want to be such a badasses, but then when it comes time to face the Piper, you know, oh no, man, I'm all good. You know, everything's good. We're good. You know, and this shit. But out of this, that's why I reached out to you. That's why I wanted you to come on this podcast, is because, like I said, I've always respected you. I've never had a problem or never talked shit about you, and wouldn't. The only thing that was said in that locker room that night, and it wasn't even in a bad way with the locker room, was when you came in. You could tell you were visibly upset over the match, and it was just said, well, I mean, it must have been a bad match, and not meaning it in a derogatory way, if you know what I mean.
No, and I realize I wear my emotions on my sleeve probably a lot bigger than a lot of people do.
Well, that's when you know you care about something, and that's when everything's there. We got a couple of things here. Let's see what Monty's got to say. Rest in peace, Daphne. We agree on that, but let's see what Monty has to say. Ben Wood and Antonio Bronson. Oh man, let me tell you something. Them two look like $1 million. Like when I saw him come out at Slammed with the get up, it was like the Buff Bagwell and what's his name? What was his name? Damn, was it Scotty Riggs?
Scotty Riggs.
All right, the American Males.
Yes, sir.
It gave me that vibe. And I was just like, Ben wears that shit so well. Like it was a perfect fit for you. And I'm just sitting here thinking.
And Antonio's a great partner, dude. You want to talk about a guy who works really hard and has come a long way from the time that he first started training with us. People don't know there was a promotion in Louisiana for a while called Elevate Pro Wrestling. It was started by Alex Cruz. Eventually, Alex had left and transferred things over to Brittany. Brittany was running it for a while. We had the training school in Chalmette. And when that guy walked through the door, you know, it was another kid off the street. And sometimes guys walk in, you can kind of tell whether or not they're going to pan out or not. But you never want to tell nobody no. You never want to spoil somebody's dreams. There wasn't a guy that ever walked into that school that I couldn't find something in the business for them to do, you know. And Antonio worked his ass off, man. And I've had some amazing matches with him, and we've had some amazing tag matches together. And it's been a hell of a ride, and like a true ride or die. And you know what's sad is, like, unfortunately, because there are some people in the business that had heat with me or had a dislike for me, they kind of took that shit out on him. And so he didn't get some booking opportunities and stuff because of that. And I've always felt bad about that, because if there's a guy you want to book that's going to show up at every show, that's going to work his ass off and put on a good show for you and can work with anybody, it's Antonio Bronson. And I'm not just saying that because he's my friend. I'm not just saying that because I trained him. If you watch his work, you can tell he's a guy that the fans respond to.
Well, he's very much, because he's real.
Right.
And when you see Antonio, you definitely wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley. And George here says some of the best talent came out of Elevate Pro. And there's no doubt there. As a matter of fact, Ben, the last show that, you know, as a matter of fact, I went to Elevate Pro when he was running it, and then went to NWA the next night. And I remember coming down to Elevate Pro and seeing one hell of a main event, and I won't forget the match because it was just that damn good. I think you had something to do with Minotaur that night, but the main event was Ray Fury versus David Ali, and it was a hell of a match. The whole show was great. Barry Wolf was on it. The Daybreakers took on Mott Fleming and Joe Oso. There were so many. There was so many matches on that show that was really good. I still got the videos on the King of Wrestling podcast somewhere, and it was just a great show, and I think that was right before the pandemic happened.
Yes,
And
sir.
it was absolutely crazy. As a matter of fact, this is how crazy it was. Now I want to get you on this. That was the day that show was the day before Kobe Bryant died.
Oh
And
wow.
the reason I remember that is, and that's why I said it, is I live 3 hours from New Orleans. So I drove to New Orleans or Chalmette and watched Elevate Pro that night. And I drove home. Was invited by Thunder Rosa and them to NWA the next day in Atlanta, which is 5 hours away. So I got home from Elevate Pro about midnight that Saturday night or Sunday morning, and then got up at 5 a.m. and drove to Atlanta. Went and watched the show, and in the middle of the NWA show, I got a notification that said Kobe Bryant had died in a plane crash. That's how I remember that so well, because it was just like, it was just a crazy weekend that weekend. And that being Elevate Pro's last show at the time. Oh, hold on. Nick Wonder's got something to say. 100% I've thrown down against Bronson and I've tagged with him. He can go. Oh, Bronson's one of those untapped talents. He's great. And we're going to have Bronson on very soon. But Bronson is he's just got that real feel. He's got that real look. He's got that gritty look and everything. But what was that like with Elevate Pro at the end there? Like as the pandemic started, because when did you ever run a show after that? Or was that the
We did,
last show?
man. We did. So let me give you a little backstory on it.
Okay.
My return to wrestling in Louisiana came through Wildcat. That's no secret. I was training at their facility, teaching the classes and stuff like that. I was doing commentary, and I was doing, some hosting stuff. That's how I met Brittany. Was working with Joel Gertner as my partner on commentary, and which was an amazing learning experience. Luke Hawks runs a extremely talented show, a very good promotion, solid wrestling promotion, always drawing, always top name guys there. We didn't always see eye to eye, but I'm very thankful for the opportunity that it gave me. I'm sure he wouldn't be as thankful to me, but that's how life goes sometimes in this business. Wildcat taught me a lot, reinvigorated my love for the business, but things kind of went sour towards the end for me. And a guy that I trained, Alex, and it started Elevate Pro with some guys, and invited me over to kind of run the locker room and stuff like that. And eventually, Brittany bought him out. He left to do things with his family and stuff, and I was kind of at the threshold, man. And it was the first time in my career that I was doing something besides performing. Booking the shows, writing the shows down. We had YouTube TV. We were on Fight TV. We were getting thousands of views per episode, and that was fucking awesome, man. I produced over 150 episodes of television, and it was amazing. And to produce something, create something, and take other people's advice and put it all together, watch it manifest itself, and then see people react to it the way that you envisioned it is probably the best compliment you can ever get in your life for anything, especially in a wrestling business. And Elevate and I'm going to say it, Elevate was the top promotion in Louisiana at the time. I'm going to say it because we were drawing the most people. We had a lot of eyes on us. Our guys were going to WWE tryouts and things like that. We had good networking relations with a lot of outside places, and from Serpentico to Fury to all the guys, Chico Adams, like all these guys that are doing things in the business were coming in on a regular basis, and the fans were getting one hell of a show every time. Man, the pandemic hit, and it was like somebody ripped your soul out. You know, you're on this high momentum. Each show's getting better. You've got all these ideas. We tried to run a few tapings during the pandemic, closed circuit tapings, just to put some content out there. I ran a show in where is it? Picayune, right after the pandemic at the what was the the resort, the little RV resort up there. Forget the
Yeah.
name of it. And it was a really small venue. So we drew about 190 people. It's probably the smallest crowd we ever drew. And, you know, but it got the ball rolling again. And we came back and we did one more show. And it was a decent show. And things kind of fell apart with management and Brittany and stuff like that. And the shop got closed. Brittany closed the shop down and took it to Texas with her. And it kind of, again, it like ripped the soul out from me because I was doing the work. I was promoting the show. I was going to Picayune every other weekend flyer, and the boys would come like we were busting our ass promoting these shows. It is not, you know this, it is not an easy thing to run a pro wrestling show.
I will never run another one again. Or no, I won't say never, but I don't want to run another one again. After running a pro wrestling company for 2 years, I got my feet of it. I mean, it's just like there's a lot of work. Like, and first off, you know me. I don't live anywhere near pro wrestling. Like the independent wrestling scene, SWA is probably the closest with being an hour. And then I'm owning a company that's 2.5 hours away. I'm driving down the weekends that we're not having shows and putting flyers up
Yes, sir.
and trying to run the town. And it burns
You
you
just
out.
can't put a post on Facebook, man. And there's some promotions that think they can get away with that, and their draw shows it.
That's the problem. Is everybody is so dependent on social media, and social media is not what it is. Like we live in Mississippi. Let's look at it this way, and I'm not meaning this in a derogatory way, but a lot of people don't have internet still in Mississippi in certain spots. They don't
They don't have a gas station or a food mart. What are you talking about?
exactly. And so, like, a lot of these people don't realize that there's wrestling. I had people come to my. I've been here for 2 years. I didn't know wrestling was going on 10 minutes from my house. 10 minutes from their house. They didn't even know wrestling was going on. It's because they don't get on social media. And if they see a flyer in the food mart or mini mart or whatever, they're like, man, it brings them back to the 90s. It brings them back to the 80s. And yeah, running a pro wrestling show is not easy. And if you think you know what you're doing, it don't matter how many shows you've run, you can always learn more. You never learn enough about running a pro wrestling show.
And that's the benefit from coming from like an OVW and coming from like working with Donnie and his brother Nova, like, you know, the door-to-door work, the salesmanship, the getting the sponsors, the getting the name out there, the doing the TV commercials on the local news, doing everything you can to get that word out there. Because the more you're flushing it down another super key, I'm going to give this away for free. One of the biggest tools for internet promoting that I had was using the buy, sell, and trade pages. Free fucking advertising. And guys don't do it. There's a million. If you go to New Orleans, there's 30, 40, 50 pages that are buy, sell, and trade. All got 5 to 10,000 followers. If you go and you post your show on there and you're constantly plugging it, thousands of people are seeing your post for free. I remember going to one place because we do a lot of charity work and stuff, handing out stuff for Christmas and things like that. And we'd be, you know, handing out the flyers at these shows, and people would be like, oh, I saw it all, you know, because you posted it so many times. But then they've got the physical flyer in their hand, so now they're going to remember it because it's something physical in their hand to look at. And the kid's got that flyer. He's going to nag the hell out of that parent to take them to the show. And so that's how you work your marks. That's why they're called marks. You know,
it really is. I got to get to Samson in a second, but I want to bring up something I did.
Samson, love that dude.
I'm gonna get to Samson's question, then we got another one from Monty up. But I want to say this: like we had the celebration. It was our 2-night event that I was doing. Had Hammerstone, had Richard Holiday there for the show, and I came up with the idea and to put out flyers, like to mail them out, like to put them, go to the mail. You know, you do the mail thing, but at the
Sure.
bottom have it. You get a kid. Kid gets in free with a paid
Yep.
adult. All right, I did that, and everybody looked at me and they're like, "We live in the social media area," and I'm like, "So I put 900 in the mailbox. If I don't get none back, okay, whatever." I went to my wife after night one. I said, "How many of those tickets did we get?" And she says, "You're not gonna believe this." I said, "Well, what?" She's like, "We got 50 back." 50 out of 900. You may say, "Oh, well, that ain't that." Yeah, it's a lot when you get 50 back. Well, we got like 70, 75 the next night. You know, it works. You have to do that. Let's get to Samson here. At the risk of being called crazy or insane. Oh, no, not you, Samson. You wouldn't be called crazy or insane. I can honestly say that I have shared a locker room with this man, and I'm a better talent for it. I agree. When you're in the locker room, and I'll let Ben speak on this, when you're in a locker room with Ben, he does have a plethora of knowledge. And I always try to listen to anything he said. If he tried to give me any advice, I try to listen because he is a great talent. And the thing about it is a lot of people don't understand when you've seen it all or been around it all, you learn a lot. So that's the thing. The Latino market is the most undeserved market in South Mississippi. Huge Spanish population haven't been popped yet. That's true. I agree on that as well. But Ben, like, anytime you're in the locker room with somebody, and I've had the pleasure of listening to you. I'm not going to go into details on what I'm meaning, but I've listened to you when we're in the locker rooms and stuff, and I just sat there and listened, and everything made sense. And I know that you like to, what's the word I'm doing? Or maybe not like, but you have that knack for teaching. And I've always appreciated that about you as well.
Well, thank you, man. And like I've learned sometimes people don't want your advice, and I choice where I give it these days because the business has changed a lot. But guys like Samson, look, he's not trying to go to the WWE. This is a guy in his career a little bit
He's
older.
trying to go to the insane asylum. He ain't going to
Loving life, but one of the most talented people you'll ever come across, and one of the, his promos and his Samson TV are absolutely phenomenal. Very few people in the area can match him, promo for promo that he puts out.
He's hilarious.
Fantastic work. But he's a good human being, and you want to help guys like that. You want to see everybody succeed. I don't want somebody to fail. Whether I like you or I don't like you, if you've got talent, you've got fucking talent.
Exactly.
And if I can help or say something or direct, and look, I'm not teaching you because I'm an egomaniac and I think I fucking know it all. I've had guys challenge me, call my bookings bullshit, say shit to my face, and I'll fire right back. Motherfucker, you've never left the goddamn state of Louisiana ever in your wrestling career. Don't fucking tell me about my booking. Because when I'm booking something or I'm talking about something, it's not coming from me. It's coming from Rip Rogers. It's coming from Jim Cornette. It's coming from Donnie. It's coming from Nova. It's coming from every single person in every locker room that I've ever been around. Bill Dundee, like all the guys that I've wrestled and been with and had the experiences with. That's where it's coming from. It's coming from the things that they told me that maybe during my own career, I wasn't necessarily able to apply at the time, but it stayed here. And so when I'm saying something to someone, that's where it's coming from. It's coming from a place of, I want you to succeed because this is a 1 in a million fucking chance. It's like playing the goddamn lottery. And not every guy is going to get that opportunity. I am blessed, Brandon. I have done things in this business that millions of people will never be able to do, will never get the chance to do. And I've pissed 90% of them away myself. I'll take full responsibility and accountability for that. But I've also worked my ass off to redeem myself. And I've also shown and proven that my talent and my knowledge equals success at certain levels. Because what can you measure success by? You know, it's eternal happiness. It's your own personal joy that you get out of something. We're not living for anybody else, you know. But why not try to help your brother? Why not try to help your friend? You know, it's a cutthroat business. I saw guys in OVW contract things calling the fucking office like, so and so was snorting coke this weekend because a spot's a spot.
They're
You
trying
know,
to move up as quick as
trying to
possible.
move up the ladder. Because if this dude gets kicked the fuck out, guess what? That's one less person I've got to compete against. Shit like that really goes on in this business, even at our level, even on the independents, even Mississippi and Louisiana, some of the worst. Like,
Well, I
just
see it.
holding
I see
on
it all.
to fucking bullshit. That's like, man, what, you know, nobody's trying to take your little piece of the pie. You know, I just want to be a part of it.
Well, here's my thing. Like me, I'm a manager. I do a podcast. I do this. My thing about being a manager is this is my plateau. This is where I'm going to be. You know, I'm not. I would never make it to another stage. You know, higher than the independent wrestling scene because there's no demand for it. I'm happy with what I do. My only thing is I want to go out there and entertain the fans that have paid a ticket. I want them to remember who the brilliant one is when they leave. I ain't got to be in every household. You know, I just want to be. I just want to enjoy life and have fun with doing what I'm doing and being able to do it with people I like or don't like. But Hillbilly Joe says you was the first member of the Dean's List.
Yes, me and Hillbilly have had quite a few battles, and somehow, miraculously, that man has come out on top. Can't possibly tell you how. But Hillbilly is another one of those talents, you know, another guy just having fun, like you said, enjoying what he's doing. Knows
Yep.
he ain't going here or going there. But you know what, man? Who's to tell anybody that they shouldn't enjoy what they're doing and how to do it, man? Life is fucking short.
It
And
is too
like
short. Yeah.
all we have is the moments and the memories and the experiences. So I'm never gonna shit on somebody's parade and tell them what to do and how to do it. And if I can
Now,
help them enjoy what they're doing to maybe do it a little bit better so they can get more out of it, I'm damn sure gonna try.
now I want creative criticism. I want to hear if I'm doing something wrong because I do want to perfect my craft, even if it is just on this level. Jay, I can't stress enough for veteran talent and up and coming and inspiring like myself. WWE is not the be all. The indie scene allows you to make yourself a persona that the big promotions can't deny. And to be honest, there's more options than there has ever been. Let me say this about Jay though, and me and Jay's talked. We had a little spit spat about AEW and WWE. I'm just gonna say this: AEW still ain't competing with WWE. Jay, I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you that, man. I'll just go ahead and be honest with you. That is good. That is good aspirations, but you know, AEW still ain't competing with WWE. But love you, Jay. And
It
you come
doesn't
on the show.
necessarily have to, though, to be honest with you, man. It's an opportunity for people to go somewhere else. And you know what? Like,
It's an
never
alternative. It's you know,
I'm not going to shit on an opportunity. I know a lot of guys that are in AEW. A lot of guys are getting a paycheck, man. I mean, if the paycheck is what you're looking for, and that's
well,
how
that's
you
what we're all
define
looking
success,
for.
you know, that's for some people. But there's nothing wrong with just following your dreams. I mean, I followed my dreams. I told people when I was a kid that I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I remember being in the woods, smoking joints with my friends, you know, at the
Love that.
quarry,
When I skipped
and
school.
and telling them that, hey, I'm going to be a pro wrestler someday. And man, like I fucking did it. Like I did it. And
Well, I
nobody
want
can take that away from me, man. It doesn't have to be here. You know, I don't have to be there. I've done some really cool shit with a lot of really cool people, and I'm really humble about it, man. I don't boast or brag about it. I'm honored and blessed to have had those experiences, and I want to see everybody have a good experience that I care about. You
Oh,
know,
y-
that's
oh yeah.
that's why I made one last attempt. I'm going to put it out there right now. This is the I didn't want to go here, but I'm going to go here because it doesn't matter anymore. But there was a group of people running some pretty crappy shows in Louisiana, drawing less than 100 people. Um, really had no business in the business. But you know what that itch feels like when you want to get into something, and um, the ring that used to be the Elevate Pro ring came back into my possession, and I had a brainstorm with some people, and I said, "Fuck it, man! This Chalmette is a fucking gold mine of wrestling fans that love pro wrestling, and the boys, the guys I care about, want to wrestle in front of their friends and their family in their own hometown in their own backyard." So I made a business decision to do business with these people in the goodness of doing something for the boys, doing something that I love, that's creative, doing something, because for me, my creativity is important. And I'm sure that's why you're doing this podcast, because without doing something creative for yourself, you're fucking lost. And
Exactly.
like, you have to have something, you know? And I made a business decision to do business with these people. They came and helped me pick the ring up from storage. They were going to fix it up, and we were going to run some shows together. And we weren't seeing eye to eye on anything, but we ran a show in Chalmette, and we drew over 400 people, and it was fucking phenomenal. And it had my fucking juices flowing, bro. And like, just to be able to, from being where Elevate ended to bringing something back was, and to have the guys there, that almost half core group of the guys you did it with to begin with, was something really special for everybody. But some people you just can't fucking do business with. And I'm sure you know that, and I'm sure you've been there. And things went real fucking sour with these people, because when I've got the experience that I have and been the places that I've been and done the things that I've done, and you've barely done any of that, and you're telling me that I need to check with you on this, or I need to check with you on that, or I need to do this, when I'm basically trying to make you fucking money and give you a better experience than you've had with other people you've been working with before, and you're going to shit on me for it, that really put a bad taste in my mouth. And we had another show coming up, and things were really heating up and heating up. And like I said earlier, man, like, over the last year, I have been really working on my mental health. And, that's a really important thing in pro wrestling, because we're losing a lot of fucking brothers and sisters out there due to mental health problems. And to have peace at any point, when you find your energy, Brandon, when you're in your element and you find your energy, you don't want to let that go for shit, because you've got something that maybe you've never had before. You have a sense of just peace in your body, and that you realize that a lot of things around you, whether it meant something to you, whether you love it or whatever relationship you had with it, is toxically fucking infecting you.
Yep.
And you have to remove that toxicity in order to have that peace. And like, this group I was working with did some pretty fucked up shit to me. They literally stole my wrestling ring. And like, at a point of just being consumed with that toxic negativity, I had to say fuck it and just be like, if this is what you do, karma will get you. But like, I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to argue over it. I'm not going to whatever. I've asked several times for payment. I've gotten blown off. It's a $5,000 fucking ring. One of the best bumping rings in Louisiana, honestly. And this shit happens. It happens to lots of people. And some people that were involved working with these people too were people that I was really close to and built strong, what I thought were strong relationships. And like you said earlier too, there's some people that will smile in your face in this business, shake your hand, and stab you in the fucking back the second you turn your cheek. And unfortunately, that happened to me. And am I a little bitter about it? Yes, maybe. People know who the promotion is. People know exactly who the two people I'm talking about who I did business with. Other people know the other people involved. I don't have to bury them by name. Um, they ran 2 shows without me. I can tell you for a fucking fact they didn't draw 400 people. Matter of fact, one of them, I think they drew like 125 in a building that never drew less than 300 plus people. Why do you think they didn't draw? I could tell you why. You want to talk about ego? Because I wasn't there and I didn't do the fucking work and I didn't bust my ass the way I bust my ass the way you say you bust your ass for shows. Because people don't know what that's like to have to do that for yourself. To be there, to every day be posting something, to be walking around and going to business, building sponsors, creating your community, building relationships with people. That's how you draw. And so that was kind of like the last for me with promoting, man. Like as much as I love this business, as much as I enjoyed producing shows and writing shows and seeing the boys fucking have a good time, man, I had to leave that. And I decided, I'm just going to finish out with the shows at SWA because it's an amazing place to be and I'm at peace there and I feel good about myself and I love everybody in that locker room. And it's like, I got to let the other shit go. And so not everything is a bowl of cherries in this wrestling world. But at the end of the day, the people that do shit and treat people like shit and are a certain way, my man, karma's a real fucking thing. And it comes back to people. You don't have to wish it on somebody. You don't have to have ill intentions for somebody. You just got to say, hey, universe, release me from this toxicity. And like, that's what I've done, dude. And I wanted to get that out there because it should be known, when people are wrestling for that company and wrestling in that ring, they're wrestling in a stolen wrestling ring that I never got a penny for. But that's this business, bro. Because at the end of the day, there's not a lot of loyalty. There's not a lot of respect. And when you do find it,
finding loyalty is hard anyway.
Right. But when you do find it, it's an amazing thing. And like I said, I'm grateful for SWA and I'm grateful for a lot of the places I've been and a lot of the opportunities that I've had and a lot of people that I've met. And, those memories and those experiences, for now at least, are enough for me to say I'm okay with how everything turned out. And, I can pursue other things in my life and I can enjoy other things. I don't even really watch the product as much as I used to. But, through every opponent that I've had, some of my favorite being Minotaur. There's a guy in OVW, Johnny Punch, a lot of the guys in the SWA locker room. I've wrestled Tommaso Ciampa. I've wrestled John Moxley. I've wrestled Mark Henley. I've wrestled Bob Holly. I've wrestled these. I can throw names out there all day. That shit doesn't mean anything, really. But I've had those opportunities, man. And it's fucking awesome to have had those opportunities. And like, when it's all said and done and you look back at it, what you think of yourself and what you remember the most and what means the most to you is what's important in what you've done, no matter what level you've done it at. And you're happy where you're at. I'm happy where I'm at, and I hope to see a lot of my peers and people that I work with and care about be happy where they're at, no matter what.
Exactly. Let's get to a few questions because I've saved a few. I want to get to Reggie. I think Reggie, great person. Always enjoyed talking when I got the chance to be around him. He says, I remember when Ben tried to give some advice to a manager after a match and the guy blew him off. The manager was still green. Me and Ben looked at each other and said, what the hell? Needless to say, that guy didn't last long. I can almost say this, and I'll see if Ben will confirm this. I'm not going to say the guy's name. I'll just say this. From the incident that happened at Southwest that day, I believe part of it come from the manager's mouth that night, if I'm not mistaken.
There are some people that are in this business that don't necessarily belong in this business and somehow find their way through the crowds because of who they know and what they know. And that was one of them people.
All right. So I was right. All right, Steve Dixon. Steve Dixon's got several questions, so we're going to go with this first one. Besides SWA, where are some of your favorite moments in your wrestling career?
Oh man, the New Jersey scene was pretty awesome, dude. I want to tell you a quick story just because he just passed away. Rest in peace, Sabu. My first NWA show in Jersey, NWA at the time was run by this guy, Dapper Don. And Dapper was a hell of a carny promoter, the old school carny promoter, you know. And Jersey was a big spot for wrestling, man. So there were a lot of the stars still around. From what I remember, on that show was Virgil, Sabu, Big Dick Dudley, 911, Sonny, Chris Candido, and Tom Brandy, one of my favorite dudes that I ever met in the business, Sal Sincere. Totally, always giving me advice. Like, didn't have to. Totally awesome dude. Got to wrestle him once, and I was like a kid in a candy store. But being in those environments, so like I'm sitting there, you know, nervous as fuck. Um, and Sabu walks by and he's like, "You got any gimmicks, kid?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm the prophet." And he looks at me like I'm the stupidest motherfucker in the world. And he's like, "Gimmicks, motherfucker, gimmicks." So Chris Candido comes by, drops him a little package. He's like, "This is what I'm fucking talking about." And that was that. So I learned what gimmicks was pretty much my first night on the independent scene there in New Jersey. But you know, we did a lot of cool shows, man. Eddie Guerrero came in for Phoenix Championship Wrestling one night, you know, when he was WWE released him for the alcohol issues and stuff like that. He wrestled Nova. We went out to eat, man, just to be around someone like him, you know, with the knowledge and just the prestige and stuff like that. Like, I looked forward to every show we did at Phoenix Championship Wrestling. But we ran right here in Kentucky. There was a promotion, USWF. We ran in a small little town in McKinney, Kentucky. Like, you know, like you're driving through 35 farm fields before you get there. Like way out there in a small little gymnasium, 400 people show up every show. Fans totally like ignited on fire with everything you're doing out there, and it just made the environment so special to be around with that. But I've really enjoyed, you know, a lot of different places I've been. I've worked for NWA, for multiple different facets of it. There was a show in Millersville, Tennessee, for a long time called SAW, Southern All Star Wrestling. We had a TV show. It was run by Reno Riggins. He was a enhancement talent for WWE for years. Reno.
He also was a talent in WCW, if I'm not
Yes, he
mistaken.
was. And for a little while, Jerry Jarrett was kind of coming in and helping us out and stuff. And we had a few guys bouncing around. Vordell was, it's the first time I ever met Vordell, was in Mississippi. Chase Stevens, Sean Schultz, you know, all those guys, like, you know, and it taught me really how to do good TV. And it, like, you know, it was a really amazing experience. Every Friday night, drive 3.5 hours each way to go down there, to be down there for a couple hours and head home, you know, but loved it. Loved loved the road trips. Guys complain about road trips now, bro. Guys complain about having to drive somewhere, man. We drove like 14 hours to wrestle like 15 minutes and back. Like, and you
That's
would
the
do it.
funnest part of That's the funnest part of
You would do
wrestling
it
is the
again in a
road trip.
second, dude. Like, it's all about the road trip with the boys. That's where you connect and you meet people and the stories are developed, dude. It blows my mind that guys are like, "Oh man, I had to drive 3 hours to the show." Like, are you out of your fucking mind?
Dude,
But
I drove 3 hours. I've drove 3 hours pretty much the entire time I've been in the wrestling business. And that to me is like a 30-minute drive at this point. But when you got that camaraderie and you got the guys you like to be around, you're doing road trips, there's nothing better.
nah,
Like,
man,
that
it's
is the
special,
funnest
dude.
time.
But there's been so many good places, man. Like the New Jersey scene was really cool. The Kentucky scene was absolutely amazing. There's a lot of good shows in New Orleans and Mississippi, dude. You know, there's a lot of good talent in the area. A lot of good guys that are really special in their own ways. And like, you know, I loved working with a lot of different people.
Definitely. All right. So we got a couple things coming up here, popping up on the screen. Let me get this. I want to put this out there with Jay. We'll go ahead and put this one up here. That's what I'm trying to explain to Brandon. I never stated that AEW was. I know you didn't, Jay. Man, calm down, dude. Calm down. Calm down. I was just saying. I mean,
If it's the Jay that I think it is, he started out as an avid AEW fan when they first came out, like praising to Jesus the product. And then when things started going the way things started going with them, he could barely watch it anymore. But
this is a different Jay. I know which Jay
okay.
you're talking about. This dude. This is a different Jay. I got the one you're one, but
So so this Jay is a diehard.
yeah, this Jay, me and him go back and forth, and we have fun. I wouldn't call AEW successful. It should be. It's terribly mismanaged. It is. They're getting in the comments on that. I want to ask this one or say this one. Randy Carver, Jay he's up northeast, but Randy Carver Jr. has something special here in Maine with his promotion, Limitless Wrestling. They booked the Hardys for August in up in Lewiston. Here's the thing. I've had Randy Carver on my old show. We had a special spotlight on Limitless on King of Wrestling Podcast, which Ben was on as also. And Limitless is one of those top promotions in New England, Northeast. They're great. And Randy, the thing about Randy is he's so young. Like, I think he started in his teenage years promoting shows. And he's grew Limitless to a success. Carmelo Hayes has been through there. He was Christian Casanova. Anthony Green, who was also in NXT, came through there. There's so many. MJF went through Limitless as well. There's so many talents that went through Limitless, and we know that one. Let me see what else we got up on here because the real Jay has come through. The one we were talking about has come through. I feel attacked. Well, you should.
Doesn't he always? Jay's a hell of a guy, dude. Great person in the business, dude. Gives his heart and soul to every match. And I've been personal friends with him for a long time. We go back and forth about a lot of things. Don't always agree on some of the stuff in wrestling, but you want to talk about a passionate wrestling fan and a passionate entertainer rolled into one, it's definitely Jay.
Well, I'll say this about Jay. Me and Jay are personal friends. We've been talking for God. I can't remember how long we've been, me and him's been kicking it up. We talk on a regular basis. And the one thing that I can agree with you on, he is an entertainer. I mean, he's been in movies like The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings. I think he was Frodo in Lord of the Rings, if I'm not mistaken. He dropped the ring off in there. I'm just messing with you, Jay. I always had to call you that. But yeah, it's guys like that are passionate and enjoy the business. And let's see what the other Jay has to say. But the fact of the matter is that another big stage option, you can go to WWE, AEW now, here and there. You can go to. All right, let's look at it this way, Ben. I'm taking this from what I just read, but you can go back to the 90s and even the early 2000s. You had WWE or WCW at the time when WCW got bought out as far as big companies. WCW got bought out, it was WWE. We know NJPW existed, but at that time they were in a bad funk. They didn't get out of that funk for a couple of years. I think Josh Barnett helped them get out of that funk with kind of the blood sport deal that he was doing over there. But now you do have WWE. You got TNA. You got AEW. You've got MLW. You got so many other platforms that can help you lift up, not only get on TV, even OVW.
Sure.
Wrestling, everybody's spoiled now. You really don't have to. You can throw a rock and hit a wrestling company that's on TV. Give me your opinion. And Jay had something else to say, coming at me with Gollum ass looking hairline. Man, I ain't got no hairline. I don't even have no hair. What are you talking about, a hairline? Anyway, go ahead, Vic.
I think there is a lot of opportunity, and like when I came up in those times, there was just a couple places. I grew up watching it all. Up north, New York, cable really started getting popular. You got home from school at 4 and 3 o'clock, 4 in the afternoon. AWA was on ESPN, followed by World Class Championship Wrestling. You had Superstars and Wrestling Challenge every Saturday and Sunday morning. We got the MSG live shows that would come across at the Garden for WWF live shows. Saturday night's main event was the first thing I've ever seen. WCW 605 on a superstation made me hate the Atlanta Braves with a fucking passion, because when the Atlanta Braves were on, WCW wasn't, and that used to fucking kill me. But wrestling was, to get into it back then, like I wanted to wrestle since I was, in high school, but I didn't know where a wrestling school was. Nobody did. We didn't have
No.
internet. We didn't, know where you could go train, and so the opportunity to get anywhere was based off of the guys that were in. Like Mike Sharp ran a school in New Jersey. Mariucci ran one up in upstate New York. Johnny Rods ran a school in Brooklyn. I trained there several times. Trained with Pat Tanaka for a while I was in New Jersey. Probably one of the best bumpers. Probably one of the best bumpers in the history of pro wrestling. And Pat taught us a lot, but he'd bring us to Johnny Rods and just the learning tree. But that was a little bit later on in the career. When I was younger, no fucking clue how you get into the business. Everybody's got a school today. Everybody has an opportunity for you to become a pro wrestler. And most people just have to pay for it. But what you do with that and where you go with that is the difference. And it is today about wrestling for the Limitlesses and Hog Wrestling and Booker T's Reality of Wrestling and OVW and the places that have a name to them that people are familiar with, because it's like coming out of OVW when they were developmental talent. That was the fucking place to be. Yep. And so when you're associating yourself with these places, it puts a little bit more on your name. And the opportunity that guys have now, some of them are taking it deeply for granted, but it's there in abundance, and in an abundance. If you looked at what AEW was doing in the beginning, showcasing all the talent, I mean, lifetime opportunities being given out on a weekly basis.
Yep.
To guys that maybe weren't even in the business a year or two, like I kind of was when I started. So, yeah, I mean, to become a pro wrestler today, man, it's a little bit easier to get your foot in the door. But again, like I said, the formula is still the same. You got to do something with what you're doing once you get there.
I agree. Well, Ben, man, it's been fun. We're about to shut down here in just a second so I can, generate clips and stuff and get everything set up. But
I appreciate the opportunity, Brandon. I'm glad we were able to cover some ground and some personal stuff. And I hope if everybody takes anything out of this is that I'm not the shit fuck that people think I am, and I just care about the business, and I've loved the business my whole life, and I work really hard for the little that I've had in it, and I appreciate every opportunity that's been given to me. I appreciate this. These podcasts are no small thing, guys. If you have an opportunity to do Brandon's podcast and get your name out there, get your name out there, talk about real stuff, expose yourself, let the people connect with you. The man's giving you a platform to sell yourself, and a lot of people aren't taking advantage of that. Sell yourself at every possible media level you can, and in person, be the person that people are expecting to see.
Exactly. And I'm going to just say this. We're not, this is not the end. I hope that we can get you back on. As a matter of fact, I'd love to get you back on, like somebody like Monty or, somebody else on here as well. And we can kind of have a roundtable stuff and just not like a argument or anything, but just like let's have a discussion. Let's enjoy talking about what we loved, what we grew up loving, and doing some fun stuff. As a matter of fact, me and Monty have got a show coming up in a couple of weeks. I'll release the date soon. Don't worry. We're going to review one of the greatest wrestling movies of all time. And if you don't think it's the greatest wrestling movie of all time, I will kick you in the nuts. That's Ready to Rumble, baby. We will get to talking about that. And me and Monty's going to do a review on that. I don't know what, Monty's side.
I know you weren't talking about The Wrestler because The Wrestler is actually a documentary. It's not a movie.
It really is. The Wrestler is a fucking documentary. You're not lying. That shit, like,
that guy is in every fucking locker room.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you look at that guy, like working in the factory, I got to be off on the weekends. I got to do my other gig. That's no joke.
It's very real, dude.
99% of the minute scene right there. So, and if you get to see The Wrestler, watch it. But, let me get your quick opinion on Ready to Rumble. Like, what was your thoughts? Like, 30 seconds. Give me 30 seconds on Ready to Rumble. What was your thoughts on the movie? It was entertaining to me, and I enjoyed it. I didn't take it too serious like a lot of people.
It's every guy who didn't think he had a chance to do something having the feel-good story of getting an opportunity to do it in the wrestling business with the people that you've dreamed of doing it with. And that's really what the movie sold to me. You can talk about Arquette however you want to talk about him. Got to live his fucking dream. Can't take that away from him.
Literally got to live.
Whether whatever how it went down in WCW, probably not the best booking, whatever. But
it wasn't his fault though. It was not his fault.
You respect the fact that he gave it his all and tried it, and that when he did go through the training for the movie and stuff like that, he worked his fucking ass off to do it. And that's the level of respect that you can have for someone who took it seriously, and in return, at the best he could, respected our business with humbleness.
Exactly. I agree, man. Ben, thank you for joining us. Would you be open to coming back on the Brilliant Show in the future?
Love to come back, man. You just let me know when, and I'll make myself available, brother. And thank you to everybody that asked questions tonight, and thank you to everybody that's been a part of this journey with me. Whether I've said it to your face or not, or never got the chance to say it, I appreciate every single one of you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, Ben, you hang in there for just a minute if you don't mind. We're
Yes,
going to
sir.
close the show on out. And let me get to this. We got upcoming shows. This coming Sunday night, we got Brimstone. Monday night, Memorial Day, we got Vladimir Koloff. You can check out, we're streaming on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and also brainbustertees.com. Go get you a Brilliant Show shirt or hat. Support the Brilliant Show. Thank y'all for joining us tonight. Like I said, good stuff. Yeah, Ben's great talent. Like, love having Ben. Ben, a pleasure, Ben. Look at that. Nick Wonder being great. I love you, Ben. Melissa, she's great. I'm going to just say this, man. I'm glad me and Ben had this conversation. I thought we had a fun time, and I can't wait to have him back on. And I'm glad that y'all got in here, got the comments going, and enjoyed the show. Thank y'all for being on the Brilliant Show tonight. We'll see you Sunday night with Brimstone. And Ben will be back in the future, hopefully. Let's see that. Y'all have a good night.
Lights blaze bright, it's a glorious sight. The champ of the mic owns the night. With a mind so slick and a suit so clean, he's running this ring like a wrestling machine. From gold-plated deals to jaw-dropping schemes, he's the mastermind of your wildest dreams. Stand up, take note, bow down if you can. It's the Brilliant Show with the Brilliant One. He's the man.